I was loading my podcast episodes into the player and I realized my birthday episode and my next numbered episode are both 78. That happens to be the year that I was born. And if that's not the universe sliding a little note across the table with my name on it, I really don't know what is. So here we are with my birthday right up against Mother's Day again. And baby, this stretch of the calendar always brings up more than what people think. There's a very particular kind of weird that happens when your birthday shows up shoulder to shoulder with Mother's Day. The texts start to roll in. The family energy gets louder. The sentimental internet starts doing what it does. And somewhere in the middle of flowers, brunch plans, the tribute posts, and emotional landmines, your own birthday is standing there like, hi, I'm here too. And every year I notice the same thing, not in some dramatic, cinematic way, more in the body. It's like this heaviness, a tenderness, a quiet resistance to the whole performance thing. The feeling of being brushed by celebration without fully landing inside. Like my life is being acknowledged, well, technically, but through some weird side door. Through other people's traditions, needs, losses, expectations, and the idea of what this whole stretch of days is supposed to actually mean. I think that's the part people don't really talk enough about. Hey y'all, welcome back to Between a Hot Mess and a Therapist, your not so typical self-help podcast for high responsibility helpers who are tired of pretending they are fine. I'm your host, Shauna Lovin, a seasoned therapist, Texas LPC supervisor, 3-5 emotional projector, and a total tree-hugging auntie rebel who believes healing can be natural. Of course, with compassion and a little cussing. If you're watching on YouTube, listening in your car, hiding in the bathroom at work, or staring at your ceiling at 2 a.m., baby, I already know what kind of week you're having. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's dive in. When it's your birthday, and it sits this close to a day that already carries so much cultural weight, family pressure, this loaning, grief, obligation, performance, it can get really muddy real fast. That's not just like, yay, birthday weekend. For a lot of people, especially women, especially helpers, especially the ones who spent years being the sturdy one, this stretch can feel like an emotional traffic jam. Your own life is up to, for just a mention, yes, but not without passing through a checkpoint of everyone else's mother's story first. And listen, the mother story is not just about whether your mother was wonderful, absent, complicated, loving, harmful, here, gone, or somewhere in the messy middle. It's also about who trained the mother to everyone, who became the emotional sponge, who learned early that being attuned, useful, and low maintenance made life easier, who praised for being mature while quietly becoming the one who anticipates everybody's and everyone else's needs before they even became a request. So when your birthday lands besides Mother's Day, like mine does, it can stir up more than what cake do I want. It can brush right up against that old ache that happens. What does it feel like to be the one who gets carried for without having to earn it? without organizing it, without downplaying it, without acting grateful for the breadcrumbs and calling that enough. Okay, that was a lot there. I'm sorry. Because some people, birthdays are just not simple. They are just not fun. They're actually mirrors. They show you where you still struggle to receive. They even show you who remembers you without prompting. They show you what kind of celebration actually nourishes you and what kind creates more labor. They show you whether being seen feels warm or weird or just suspicious. And when you put that next to Mother's Day, a day loaded with memory, image, longing, and emotional performance, it can bring up a whole lot of private weather systems on its own. I know for me, it's never been just about turning another year older. It's about proximity, about what it means to have my own marker of life arrive right up against the giant collective ritual of caregiving, womanhood, family roles, and sentimental expectations. It seems to me, notice where I still slip into managing the emotional tone of everyone else and the room that you're actually in, where I still feel tempted to make myself easy to celebrate, where I still catch the reflex to shrink my own day so nobody else feels too much, misses too much, or wants too much, or grieves too much. And that reflects that I have, that surfaces sometimes is just old. A lot of us have old reflexes around being low impact, around not asking for too much, around making your joy convenient, or just needs super tidy, or disappointment silence, around taking just enough space in the room to be acknowledged, but not enough to disrupt the emotional order of the room. So if your birthday has ever felt strangely loaded, strangely flat, or strangely hard to locate yourself inside, that does not automatically mean you are ungrateful or difficult or bad at celebrating. No. It means your body knows something about what it has historically cost you to be centered. That is a totally different conversation. Especially when people who are used to being the one who keeps things moving, the planner, the peacemaker, the emotional, literate one, the one who remembers the card, buys the gifts, smooths the edges, and knows who is estranged from who and who cannot sit next to each other at the restaurant. The one who needs a softer tone. You know who will complain, you know who will cry, and you know who will make it just fucking weird. You know that. But baby, by the time your own birthday gets here, you already are halfway into some emotional project management. No wonder it can feel hard to just drop into some level of delight. That's not because you don't know how to enjoy yourself. Sometimes it's because your nervous system associates family-centered celebrations with some level of vigilance, with scanning, with managing, with being perceptive enough to stay ahead of everyone else's feelings. So when the occasion is supposed to include you, your body may still be standing like at the door and then checking for the weather changes first. That's the kind of pattern that doesn't disappear just because there are flowers on the table and it looks beautiful. And there's this grief part that kind of creeps in. Let's not act brand new about this either. Mother's Day is not a neutral holiday. It can bring up absence, estrangement, rage, guilt, longing, grief, numbness, comparison, tenderness, and all kinds of emotional static people are expected to wrap up in some freaking pastel bow and moving through it politely. like it means something. So if your birthday sits right next to all of that, of course, the whole thing can feel emotionally crowded. You may even try to touch your own aliveness while also brushing up against inherited roles, old mother wounds, and your own mothering experiences, or the ache of what was never simple to just fucking begin with. And that's a whole lot in one weekend. And that is not often what gets missed. It's that even the people who love you may not understand the texture of the complexity of what's happening. They just see the dates on the calendar. They just see the overlap. And it becomes like a 2-for-1 celebration. I know personally that is banned in my household. We don't do 2-for-1. A sweet little birthday and Mother's Day together moment. But internally, it can feel like trying to hear your own pulse in the room full of everyone else's history. That can make a person oddly emotional or weirdly detached or just both. Like you want to celebrate or you want to be celebrated, but you don't want to perform celebration. You want to be seen, but not managed. You want tenderness, but not the kind that comes with social obligation all over it. You want your life to count in a clean and uncluttered way, not as an add-on, not as an afterthought either, and not as we'll celebrate you too. Two is just little of a word, but honey, it can feel like a whole world and wound on its own. That's why I keep coming back to this every year. The difference between being included and being centered. A lot of people get included. Not everybody feels fully held in the moment that is supposed to mark their existence. And if that hits some sort of sore spot for you, I need you to know that it's not the pettiness. It's not selfishness. That is just the body remembering all of the places that it learned that it needs could be acknowledged without actually being given too much room. So let's talk nervous system for 1 second in plain English. If you have a history of over accommodating, over reading the room, or making yourself emotionally efficient for other people, dates like this can make you wake up a whole pattern right back up again. The body starts to prepare before the event even happens. You get irritable about little things, weirdly tired, unclear on what you really want. Maybe you procrastinate making plans. Maybe you say you don't care, but secretly you care a whole fucking lot. Maybe you overfunction and then you feel resentful that nobody noticed what it took. Maybe you act breezy while your inner world is just having full on mutiny. That is not you being too much. That is often the body bracing for another moment where your own experience might get practically swallowed by emotional requirements of the room. And that's why this annual combo can make it so revealing. It shows you where you're trying to receive is still tangled up in guilt, where your visibility is still tangled up in some level of performance, and where celebrations are still shaped more by what keeps the peace than what actually makes you feel nourished. I've had years where I felt myself drifting towards that familiar internal move, minimizing the day, keep it cute, don't make it a thing, stay easy, stay gracious, stay an adult, and stay understanding. And yes, there's maturity and perspective. Not every birthday needs fireworks or some freaking string quartet. Please, no. But there's a difference between perspective and preemptive self-erasing. There's a difference between being flexible and disappearing before anyone even asked you to. That's the line I care about now. Not how do I make this perfect, but how do I stay present to myself in all of this? How do I let the day mean something without handing, like a new meaning or handing the meaning actually away? How do I notice what I actually want before the family dynamics, the cultural scripts, or old caretaker reflexes that gets handed off to you? How do I mark my own life in a way my body can recognize, not just in a way that photographs, well, those are nice, makes these memories, but how can I make this more comfortable for me? That's the deeper invitation of a birthday, honestly. Not just cake, not just gifts, not just another lap around the sun. It's a marker. It's a pause point. It's a moment to ask whether your life that you're living feels like it actually belongs to you and it fits. You want to know whether you're being loved can actually reach you, whether the roles you're still performing actually fit your life now, whether if you've gotten good at carrying everyone else's, but that your own existence starts to feel like one more item on the weekend itinerary. I want you to sit with that for a second. Because sitting right next to Mother's Day, like every year, I think the question gets a little bit sharper each year. What does it mean to honor the life that came through the mother's story without abandoning self, who's here now? That is not a Hallmark question. That is a grown-ass woman business question. Because maybe part of getting older is realizing that the celebration is not just about the attention. It's about the congruence. It's about whether your honoring matches the actual truth that's happening in your life. Whether the way the day shaped actually feels like you were cared or not just some social choreography. You want to know if letting yourself be met in a way that doesn't require some kind of freaking costume change, like we're performing again. We're not here for that. So here's the reframe that I want to offer today. If this time of year feels tendered, layered, or unexpectedly emotional for you, that does not mean that you're being dramatic or hard to please. It just really means that you're finally sensitive to the difference between being remembered and being deeply considered. It is a difference. It may mean that your body is less willing to settle for symbolic care when what you really want is something more honest, something more specific, something that feels like it was actually meant just for you. That's not childish. That's just discernment. And if you are someone who has spent most of your life doing the mothering in some way, shape, form, or fashion, that means emotionally, logistically, or energetically, it doesn't matter, then maybe your birthday brushes up against Mother's Day is an annual chance to notice where you still default in tending to the room before tending to yourself. Not a shame pattern. I just want you to see it. Stop calling it a personality when you may have just started an adaptation instead. To admit to being good at carrying people's stuff. It's not the same thing as feeling deeply cared for. Those are not interchangeable things, no matter how pretty the brunch reservation is. So maybe this year, the move is not making a whole weekend mean more than it needs to. Maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe it's just asking one honest question. what would actually feel good to me? Not what sounds sweet, not what looks thoughtful from the outside, not what causes the least disruption. What actually lands in my body and feels good and care with me? That's the answer that may be way smaller than what you were thinking at first. It might just be a quiet day, maybe a meal with one person you don't have to perform with. Maybe it's just turning your phone off for the day. Maybe it's buying your own damn cake because you know exactly what you like. Leaving early. Maybe it's not combining events. Like I said, we don't do that in my house. It's also about saying no to the group thing if that's what it means to you. Letting yourself have the preference without wrapping it up in some kind of apology. That's what really counts, and that's what really matters. And if there's any level of grief mixed in all of this, let it be there without turning it into some level of moral failure. If there's gratitude, let it be real and not forced. If there's some irritation, get curious instead of guilty. If there's a longing to feel more fully met, don't rush to make that longing unreasonable. Sometimes longing is just information about where you want your life to get more honest. So that's why I'm sitting in this little birthday meets Mother's Day corridor today. Not some polished lesson, just a deeper respect for how loaded these dates can be, how much they can reveal about receiving, belonging, care, and the old shapes of our roles. My life is here, and yours is too, and that matters. And maybe the real work is not making the day perfect. Maybe it's letting it just tell the truth. If there's this time of year stirs up something in you, I hope that you let something speak before the weekend gets crowded and everyone else's version of what it should mean. And if nobody has said it to you in a way that actually lands, let me say it plainly. Your life is not an accessory to other people's traditions. Not this year, not in a year, not ever. You get to matter in your own right, your own space, and in your own life. Until next time. All right, my loves, that's another episode in the books, and I'm out. Now, I need you to go drink some water, touch some grass, get a sip of sunlight, take a pause, and stop acting like your nervous system is optional. And yes, you are basically a houseplant with complicated emotions. If you needed this today, tell me about it, tell me what landed, hit follow, and send this to the I'm fine friend who is absolutely not fine, and you know who I'm talking about. And if you want to work with me, everything you need is linked in the show notes because Auntie doesn't do energy sucking DMs. Okay, love you. Bye.